Now, guys, the list of notable people who died without drawing up a will and taking care of their estate continues to grow. Actress Anne Heche, the latest example. She joins the likes of Prince, Aretha Franklin, Bob Marley, Sonny Bono, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Pablo Picasso, even Howard Hughes. So the list goes on and on there. It is hard to understand why, those with sizable estates don't have wills. For the rest of us, is a will part of an important part of estate planning, or is it not necessary for everybody?
Well, it's absolutely necessary. I think it's necessary for everybody. It is kind of shocking that the number of people that you mentioned, that those high influential people like that. I've run into several situations where doctors, very successful doctors and attorneys, I talk to them, and a lot of them don't even have life insurance. And it's like, I just don't understand why someone in the position that you're in fail to properly protect your assets and your family, for that matter. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we've done is we've put together the ultimate estate planning checklist, and it's very important to keep that up to date. This past week, I met with an attorney for making some changes to my mother's will and trust, not necessarily will, but we needed to put something together because a lot of things have changed, and to be quite honest with you, shame on us, right? Dad passed away back in December. We are just now getting around to making some changes to it, and with Mom at 84 years old, it's kind of important to make sure we get things put in place so us, the beneficiaries, don't have to fight and figure out what's going on. There are several things that you want to make sure that you keep up to date. One of the probably most important one is the actual beneficiaries. Make sure that you update your beneficiaries, and you may have someone that may have passed away. There may be a divorce in the family, and you want to make some changes. If you don't make that change to your beneficiary, whoever is listed on that policy, if it's a life insurance policy for a beneficiary, that's who's getting that money.
Yeah, I think that's important to understand is, if you're listening today, whether you have an up-to-date will or not, there are assets that pass through your will.
Right.
And a will really is a letter of instructions to the judge that says, what do you want to have happen with your what's called probatable assets? Mm-hmm. So when we think about probatable assets, we're thinking about things like your house, your car, your bank accounts, things that don't have a named beneficiary.
Right.
There's other accounts that have a named beneficiary. That would be like your 401k, your IRA, your life insurance, your annuity. Now, if you properly name a beneficiary, those assets will pass outside.
Right.
There's also ways to avoid probate by a couple of easy steps, things like taking your taxable investment accounts, considering the advantages of adding transfer on death or paid on death type registration, which then can help avoid probate. I'd also say, one of the things about us, the retirement guys, and America's Medicare Associates, we're not estate planning attorneys, but this is something when we take this comprehensive approach, we can make an introduction to an estate planning attorney or work with your attorney to get everybody all on the same page together, because you don't want to make this $1 million mistake. And in fact, if you have time, you can Google pension pickle. And the pension pickle, it lays out the story of a teacher who, early on in her life got started teaching. At that time, she wasn't married, named her sister as beneficiary, and then throughout her entire career saved this huge pension worth, $1 million. Sure. And then right at about retirement time, unfortunately passed away. Well, she'd been married after all of those years, had kids. Her husband goes to the school system to claim, his entitlement because of being a spouse.
Right.
They pull up the paperwork and come to find out the sister was named beneficiary, because she had never updated that form. Now, this case goes all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, you've been a loving couple, you've raised a family. It's probably no doubt in the court's mind that, she would have intended to have the money go to you. But, what we had to do is we had to go what's in writing, and what's in writing says the sister is the beneficiary of the pension. And any guesses, if you're listening, whether the sister gave the pension over?
I'm going to say no.
Well, they went to court, and there's a reason why, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Pension pickle is a thing to take a look at. The ultimate estate planning checklist is something that we go through, and we take a lot of those things. So, if you don't have easy access to your beneficiary forms, that's something that you want to also take a look at. A lot of times people would assume that the beneficiary form's on file somewhere else. Now, it wasn't that long ago that we, in the news, we're talking about the tragedies of 9/11. And if you think about the North and South Tower, think about how many financial service companies were in the North and South Tower.
Right.
So when those towers came down, how many computers, how many documents, how many pieces of paperwork were lost? I can't tell you the number of times that I've had people come into my office and we'll look at like their annual life insurance statement,
Right.
or they'll look at their 401k, and we'll see like it says no beneficiary on file. Well, by having no beneficiary on file, you just created a huge tax, time delay, and waste of money in that type of process. So the ultimate estate planning checklist is the way to avoid it. What we've done is we've taken our combined nearly 50 years of experience and put some of the most common things that we've seen and given you a kit that gives you helpful information. So if this is something that maybe you're helping mom and dad out, this is something that you're looking at for your own life, or something that you want to share, that ultimate estate planning checklist is the way to do it.
One thing, Nolan, that a lot of people may not be aware of, but like naming an executor. If you don't name an executor, what do you think happens?
Yeah, the court's going to figure it out.
The
right?
court's going to figure it out.
And
you
it may not be
like
who you
that.
want it to be.
That's exactly right. And there's a lot of things like, a lot of people don't have all of the information on what an executor is going to do for them. And it's very important to make sure that you don't want the state or the government to get involved and say, hey, here's who is going to take care of these things for you. A property manager, if you've got property, if you get investment property out there, who's going to take care of that? I mean, these are all things that we put in there. Kind of a crazy one, but what if you have a couple of pets? Who's going to be the caretaker of your pets? I mean, you're just going to give them to the Humane Society? I mean, those are things you want to do with pets, right? So a lot of great, powerful things are in that also estate planning guide. We put that together to help people out. If anybody wants a copy, like Nolan said, if anybody wants a copy of that, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to share that with you. And also share, we've got attorneys that we refer business to, that we've done a lot of business with, that would be more than happy to help you out with all of that.
Yeah, and I'd say, again, two other important things if you're listening and looking at your beneficiary forms that you want to become aware of was what is called per capita or per stirpes language. Mm-hmm. So what that talks about is how the distribution of that money will go,
right.
Ultimately, if you're leaving money, say, to your adult children. So like in my family situation, my brother has already passed away, so it's my sister and I. So if the default language on, say, mom and dad's financial assets is the default language per stirpes, what that means is that money would be paid just to the surviving surviving kids. So if it's the desire to have that money go down and pass down to the next generation, meaning my brother's share go to his children, they need to have the correct per capita language in place on the forms, and understand the difference between per stirpes and per capita. The next thing that I would say that I've noticed a lot this year is a big trap to get caught off is blended families. So if you're a blended family, maybe in a second marriage, back in the good old days, we used to write the words divided equally amongst all children born of this marriage.
Right.
Well, if you're in a second marriage or a blended family, what exactly does that mean? Mm-hmm. And that's where these mistakes happen. And, final thing is, I say the reason to do this is because you love and care about your family. Mm-hmm. How many families have you known that have been torn apart because there was not clear instructions as far as what the wishes were?
Absolutely.
I know even in my own family situation, I just wish I would have known what the wishes were. But if they're not documented properly, you're just setting yourself up for a disaster. But there's easy, simple ways that we can help you fix that.
As the saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I listed off, 8, 9 celebrities just now who didn't have that plan. And that was just, more in recent news. Right. The truth of it is, it's not just celebrities that do this. It happens all the time, but it can be prevented. Take advantage of this. Get the ultimate estate planning checklist. Go ahead and put that in place. Dot those T's, cross those I's. America's Retirement Headquarters can help you. As they said, if you've got an attorney that you work with, they'll be happy to work alongside them and help with that. If you don't, they're happy to recommend ones that they work with. But it is definitely something that you want to take into account. Americasretirementheadquarters.com. Get that ultimate estate planning checklist, or give a call, 419-794-3030. Once again, 419-794-3030.